Once upon a time, in a land where dense forests whispered secrets and ancient castles stood like watchful giants, there lived a nobleman named Alaric Ravenwood. Once proud and wealthy, the Ravenwood family had fallen from grace after a series of cruel misfortunes. Debts piled up like storm clouds, their vast estates diminished to mere shadows of their former glory. Alaric had 7 children, 5 sons and 2 daughters, but it was his youngest daughter, Seraphina, who shone brightest with a spirit unbroken by hardship. Unlike her older siblings, who grumbled at their reversed fortunes and the loss of their privileges, Seraphina embraced their new reality with eager curiosity. She was determined to learn, to grow, and to protect what little remained of their legacy. One bleak autumn afternoon, Alaric set out on a journey to the coastal city of Eldermere, hoping to strike a trade deal that might save his family from ruin. The journey was long and treacherous, with the wind biting cold and rain lashing down like shards of glass. Upon reaching the city, his hopes were dashed. The merchants refused his offers, unwilling to trust the fallen house. As he rode home through the thickening fog, a violent storm erupted. The sky roared and lightning cracked like shattered glass. With no shelter in sight, Alaric guided his weary horse toward an ancient mansion he had seen only once before, a looming structure half hidden in tangled ivy and shadow. The mansion's iron gates creaked open as if by some unseen hand, welcoming him into its gloomy embrace. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of old wood and forgotten memories. To Alaric's astonishment, a grand dining table was set elegantly for one. Exhausted and hungry, he sat and ate the meal waiting for him, warm and nourishing. He spent the night within those mysterious walls, surrounded by silence and secrets. At dawn, Alaric awoke with the heavy realization he had promised Seraphina arose from the garden of Eldermere, a symbol of hope and beauty to brighten her days. Determined to keep his word, he wandered into the sprawling, untamed gardens of the mansion. Among thorny bushes and wildflowers, his eyes settled on a magnificent rose bush, vibrant and full of blooms. He reached out, plucking the roses one by one, until only a single, perfect flower remained. But as his fingers closed around the last rose, a low growl echoed behind him. Alaric turned to find a towering figure, half man, half beast, with eyes like burning embers. The beastly owner of the mansion had caught him. The beast's voice was a thunderous rumble as he laid out a harsh ultimatum: Alaric must repay his debt either by himself or by sending one of his children to serve the beast in his place. Fear and desperation gripped Alaric's heart. Back at their modest home, Alaric recounted the encounter to his family. Seraphina listened quietly, her gaze steady and unwavering. Without hesitation, she volunteered to take her father's place, to face the unknown fate that awaited her in the mansion. Together, father and daughter journeyed through the shadowed woods to the mansion's gates once more. The towering iron gates, twisted with vines and shadows, loomed ominously as they approached. Here, the story would truly begin. The sun had dipped low behind the dense canopy of the Ravenwood forest, casting long shadows that twisted and danced like specters on the forest floor. Seraphina Ravenwood walked steadily beside her father, Alaric, who was growing weary with each step. The path ahead led them deeper into the heart of the unknown, to the ancient mansion that had become their family's destiny. The journey through the woods was silent save for the crunch of dry leaves beneath their boots and the occasional hoot of an owl echoing through the gathering dusk. Seraphina's thoughts raced faster than her footsteps. What awaited her beyond the iron gates? What kind of master lived in that shadowed place? And most pressing of all, what price would she pay for her father's rose? As they reached the towering gates, the twisted ironwork gleamed faintly under the waning light. The massive doors groaned open as if moved by invisible hands, revealing a courtyard cloaked in mist. Statues of forgotten nobles lined the path, their faces worn and eyes hollow, staring down at the newcomers with silent judgment. Alaric's grip on Seraphina's hand tightened for a moment, then released. "I cannot go further," he whispered, his voice cracking with emotion. "This is where I leave you, my brave daughter." Seraphina nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "I will be all right, Father. I promise to return." With that, Alaric turned and retraced his steps through the iron gates, disappearing into the encroaching forest. Left alone, Seraphina stepped forward, the cold air wrapping around her like a shroud. The mansion loomed ahead, its towering spires clawing at the twilight sky, windows flickering faintly as though the building itself breathed. She reached for the heavy iron door and hesitated, her heart pounding. Then, gathering all her courage, she pushed it open. Inside, the mansion was vast and cavernous. Flickering candlelight cast eerie shadows across intricate tapestries and faded paintings that lined the walls. The air smelled of aged wood, dust, and something more, an unspoken magic lingering in the silence. Before Seraphina could take a step further, a soft rustling sound came from the shadows. From the gloom emerged a slender figure cloaked in dark robes. His hair was silver like moonlight, and his eyes glowed faintly with a gentle but inscrutable light. "Welcome, Seraphina," the man said in a voice both warm and commanding. "I am Elias, the keeper of the Ravenwood mansion. I tend to the estate and its secrets." Seraphina blinked in surprise. "Keeper? But I thought the master would be here." Elias smiled faintly. "Patience, child. The master will reveal himself in due time. For now, you must learn the ways of this place." With that, Elias led her through winding corridors filled with whispering echoes. They passed libraries filled with ancient tomes, secret alcoves, and hallways that seemed to shift subtly as if the house itself was alive. Along the way, Elias revealed fragments of the mansion's history. Once a beacon of power and knowledge, the estate had fallen under a curse when its previous lord delved too deep into forbidden magics. The curse bound him to his beastly form, and the mansion to eternal solitude. "You, Seraphina, are bound by blood and fate to this place," Elias explained. "Your presence here is no accident. The rose your father took awakened the old magic, and with it, a chance for redemption." Seraphina's mind reeled. The burden was heavier than she'd imagined. But alongside fear was a flicker of hope. Perhaps here, in this shadowed place, lay the key to restoring her family's honor. Elias paused before a grand door etched with ancient runes. "This is your chamber," he said, opening the door to reveal a room both elegant and somber, adorned with rich tapestries and a canopy bed draped in velvet. Before leaving, Elias placed a small, ornate box on the bedside table. Within lies a gift and a warning. Use it wisely. As he vanished back into the shadows, Seraphina sat on the edge of the bed, the weight of her new life settling around her like a cloak. The sound of footsteps echoed from the hall, heavy, deliberate. The master of the mansion was coming. Seraphina rose, heart pounding, and prepared to meet the beast who held her fate in his claws. The heavy footsteps grew louder, reverberating through the vast hallways like the heartbeat of the mansion itself. Seraphina's breath hitched as the door to her chamber slowly creaked open. A tall figure stepped inside, cloaked in shadows, his face obscured by the dim light. As the figure moved closer, Seraphina caught sight of him, the beastly master of the Ravenwood mansion. His form was immense, covered in thick, dark fur that shimmered with an almost otherworldly sheen. His eyes, glowing amber, held a strange mixture of fury and sorrow. Massive horns curled from his head, and claws as sharp as daggers tapped softly on the wooden floor. Despite his fearsome appearance, there was a certain grace in his movements, a hint of nobility beneath the monstrous exterior. "I am called Thorn," the beast spoke in a deep voice that rumbled like distant thunder. "You have come willingly. That pleases me." Seraphina steadied herself, locking eyes with the creature before her. "I am here to repay my father's debt," she said firmly. "But I am not a prisoner. I will find a way to restore your true self and free us both." Thorn's eyes narrowed. "Many have tried and failed. This curse is older than you can imagine, woven from dark magic and despair." At that moment, Elias appeared silently behind Seraphina, holding the ornate box. "There is hope," he said quietly. "But the path is perilous. The enchanted rose, which your father plucked, is the key. Its petals wither with time. If the curse is not broken before the last petal falls, both the master and this mansion will be lost forever." Seraphina's gaze drifted to the delicate rose, resting under a glass dome on a pedestal in the corner of the room. Its petals shimmered faintly, alive with magical energy. "How do I break the curse?" she asked, determination flaring in her chest. Thorn's growl softened. "You must learn to see beyond appearances, beyond fear. Only true love and sacrifice can shatter the darkness." Over the following days, Seraphina began her life in the mansion. She was guided by Elias, who taught her the mansion's many secrets, hidden passageways, ancient spells, and forgotten histories. She learned that the mansion itself was a living entity, responding to the emotions of its inhabitants. The other servants were few, mostly shadows and whispers, but one stood out, a mysterious young woman named Lyra, whose laughter echoed like chimes through the halls and whose eyes held the fire of rebellion. Lyra took Seraphina under her wing, sharing stories of the mansion's glory days and warning of the dangers lurking in its depths. "There are rooms no one dares enter," Lyra whispered one evening. Places where shadows twist into nightmares, and time flows strangely. Curiosity burned in Seraphina's heart. The mansion was not just a prison, it was a labyrinth of mysteries waiting to be unraveled. One night, as a storm raged outside, Seraphina heard faint music drifting through the halls, haunting melodies played on an unseen harp. Following the sound, she stumbled upon a forgotten chamber filled with glowing crystals and ancient runes. In the center lay a book, bound in worn leather, pulsing with faint light. Opening it, Seraphina found writings that hinted at a hidden power, a way to confront the curse by facing the darkest memories of the mansion's master. But confronting those memories would mean entering the beast's mind, a perilous journey that could consume her soul. As she closed the book, resolve hardened within her. If she was to save Thorn, her family, and perhaps herself, she would have to walk through the shadows of the past and face the unknown terrors ahead. The clock chimed midnight, and with it, the last petal on the enchanted rose trembled ever so slightly. The race against time had begun. The days in the Ravenwood mansion grew heavier with unspoken tension. Seraphina could feel the walls closing in, the silence thickening like a fog that refused to lift. Each corner of the mansion whispered secrets, and each shadow seemed to flicker with memories long buried. One morning, as a pale sun struggled to pierce the gloom, Elias summoned Seraphina to the vast library, a cathedral of knowledge with towering shelves and stained glass windows that scattered fractured light across ancient manuscripts. Today, your true trial begins, Elias said gravely, leading her to a secluded alcove where an ornate mirror stood, its surface rippling like liquid silver. This is the mirror of whispers, Elias explained. It reveals not what is, but what was, the memories locked deep within a soul. To break the curse that binds Thorn, you must journey into his past, face the shadows that haunt him, and understand the pain that transformed a man into a beast. Seraphina's heart pounded, but her resolve was firm. How do I enter these memories? Elias handed her a delicate silver pendant shaped like a rosebud. This will guide you. When you touch the mirror while holding the pendant, your consciousness will travel through the threads of Thorn's memories. Beware, the mind's darkness is as treacherous as any forest. That night, in her chamber, Seraphina prepared herself. Clutching the pendant, she approached the mirror. The glass shimmered and pulsed as if alive. Taking a deep breath, she reached out, her fingers brushing the cool surface. A sudden rush engulfed her, cold, swirling currents that pulled her into a vortex of light and shadow. She landed in a dense forest bathed in moonlight, but the air was thick with sorrow. Before her stood a younger man, his features noble yet marked by pain. This was Alaric Thorn before the curse, a lord beloved by his people and family. Seraphina followed him silently through scenes of joy and heartbreak. She saw the castle in its prime, filled with laughter, music, and warmth. But shadows crept beneath the surface. The Lord's ambition had driven him to seek forbidden knowledge, desperate to save his family and estate from a creeping blight. One night, in the depths of his study, he summoned a mysterious figure cloaked in darkness, a spirit offering power at a terrible price. You desire to save all you love, the spirit hissed, but every gift has a cost. Thorn accepted the pact, unaware that it would bind his soul to the curse, turning him into the beast who now ruled the mansion. Seraphina's vision blurred as she witnessed his anguish, the isolation, the slow transformation from man to monster. Tears welled in her eyes. The curse was not mere punishment but a tragic consequence of desperate love. Suddenly, the forest darkened, and sinister shapes emerged from the mist, manifestations of Thorn's fears and regrets. They lunged at Seraphina, claws and shadows clawing at her resolve. She grasped the pendant tightly, summoning courage. "I will not be afraid," she whispered, the silver rose glowing bright. Light burst forth, scattering the shadows. Breathing heavily, Seraphina felt herself pulled back through the vortex, returning to her chamber as dawn's first light kissed the horizon. The trial had begun, but this was only the first step. Over the following days, Seraphina struggled to balance her duties in the mansion with the weight of what she had seen. Thorn watched her with unreadable eyes, his growl softened into reluctant acceptance. Meanwhile, strange occurrences unsettled the household. Doors slammed on their own, whispers echoed through empty halls, and ghostly figures flickered in the corners of vision. Lyra confided in Seraphina, "The mansion remembers. It feeds on fear and doubt. You must be strong for your sake and for his." Determined, Seraphina sought to learn more of the ancient magic binding the curse. She discovered forgotten tomes describing the trial of memories as a path toward redemption, but warned of a darker trial ahead, the trial of the heart, where true sacrifice is demanded. As the enchanted rose's petals continued to wither, time slipped away. One evening, as lightning cracked across the sky, Seraphina and Thorn faced each other in the grand hall. "Why do you fight so hard?" Thorn asked, his voice rough but tinged with hope. "Because I believe there's still good in you," Seraphina replied, stepping closer. "And because I refuse to let this curse define us." For a brief moment, the beast's snarling gave way to a vulnerable glance, a flicker of the man he once was. But then the room darkened, and a chilling wind swept through. From the shadows, the spirit of the pact emerged, a wraith cloaked in malevolence, its eyes burning with cruel amusement. "You meddle in forces beyond your grasp," it hissed. "If the curse is to be broken, sacrifices must be made, blood for blood, soul for soul." Seraphina stood firm, gripping the silver pendant. "I am ready." The wraith smiled, a smile that promised torment and trials yet to come. The true battle for freedom and love was only beginning. The grand hall was suffused with the cold, oppressive air as the wraith's chilling words echoed. Seraphina's fingers tightened around the silver pendant, its faint glow pulsing like a heartbeat in the darkness. Around her, shadows lengthened, swirling like living things, as if the very walls of the Ravenwood mansion conspired against her resolve. Thorn, the beast, stood beside her, a towering figure of fur and muscle, yet his amber eyes betrayed a flicker of hope and anguish. The battle they faced was no longer simply against a curse but against the malevolent force that had bound him in chains of despair. "You think you can defy fate?" The wraith sneered, its form shifting into grotesque shapes that morphed from whispers to snarling beasts. Seraphina took a steadying breath. "I choose to fight," she said with quiet strength. "Not because I know the end, but because I believe in a future beyond this darkness." With a flick of her wrist, the pendant flared with brilliant light, casting the shadows into retreat. The wraith hissed and vanished into the corners, but the mansion itself seemed to tremble, as if warning them of the trials yet to come. That night, Seraphina lay awake in her chamber, the weight of destiny pressing down. Her mind replayed the vision of Thorn's past, the noble lord who had once been a man of honor, now trapped in monstrous form by his own desperate choices. She rose and approached the glass dome enclosing the enchanted rose. One petal had already fallen. The time was slipping away faster than she dared to admit. Suddenly, a gentle knock interrupted her thoughts. Gabriel, the young servant, entered quietly, carrying a tray with a small meal and a cup of warm tea. "Forgive me, Miss Seraphina," he said softly. "The master wished to speak with you." Seraphina nodded, sensing the unspoken tension in his voice. Descending the grand staircase, she found Thorn waiting in the shadowed library, a place of forgotten knowledge and lingering memories. "I have been," Thorn hesitated, the beastly exterior momentarily faltering. "Watching you, learning from your courage. It awakens something long buried." Seraphina met his gaze, seeing the man beneath the beast for the first time, not just in visions but in the trembling warmth of the present. "I am not your enemy," she said. "We are bound by this curse, but together, we can break it." Thorn lowered his massive head in acknowledgement. "Tomorrow, you must face the second trial, the trial of the heart. It will test your deepest fears and desires. Only through sacrifice can the curse be undone." Fear flickered within Seraphina's chest, but she held it back. "Tell me what I must do." Thorn's voice was rough but resolute. "You must enter the heart of the mansion, the Chamber of Echoes. There, the past and present collide. Your heart will be laid bare, and you will confront not only the beast but yourself." As dawn painted the sky in hues of rose and gold, Seraphina prepared for the trial. Elias appeared once more, his silver eyes reflecting the weight of the task ahead. "The mansion is alive," he reminded her. "It will test every part of your being. Trust in yourself and in the bond you share with Thorn." Before entering the chamber, Seraphina took a moment to gather her thoughts. She thought of her family, her father's sacrifice, and the fragile hope symbolized by the enchanted rose. Stepping through the ornate door, she entered a vast circular room where walls shimmered like liquid glass, reflecting not her image but her memories, fears, and hopes. Visions unfolded, moments of joy from her childhood, shadows of doubt, faces of loved ones lost, and her deepest fears of failure and loneliness. The chamber tested her resolve, whispering doubts and regrets. Yet Seraphina stood firm, confronting each vision with honesty and courage. At the center of the chamber, a mirror formed a portal to her own heart. She reached out, willing herself to face the truth. In that moment, a wave of warmth flooded her memories of love, sacrifice, and unyielding hope. The enchanted rose's petals glowed brighter, its magic responding to her bravery. Back in the mansion's great hall, Thorn felt a stirring within his beastly form, a crack in the armor of his curse. The journey was far from over, but the first step toward redemption had been taken. The first light of dawn crept softly through the towering windows of the Ravenwood mansion, casting long shafts of pale gold across the ancient stone floor. But outside, a storm was brewing. Fierce winds howled through the skeletal branches of the surrounding forest, rattling the iron gates and sending a chill that seemed to seep into the very bones of the estate. Inside, the atmosphere was thick with tension and unspoken fears. Serafina, her face pale but eyes bright with determination, paced the length of the vast chamber she now called home. The trial of the heart had tested her spirit, peeling back layers of doubt and sorrow she hadn't known lay within. Yet with every challenge she faced, her resolve only deepened. Thorn stood silently near the hearth, his beastly form still imposing, but the light in his eyes softer than before. The curse was loosening its grip not through magic alone, but through the fragile bond growing between them. Suddenly, the great doors of the hall burst open with a thunderous crash, and Elias strode in, urgency written in every line of his silvered face. "There is little time," he announced grimly. "The pack's darkness grows stronger. The wraith you saw before is rallying forces, shadows from beyond the veil, restless spirits bound to the curse. They seek to snuff out your hope before the last petal falls." Serafina's heart clenched. "What must we do?" Elias raised a hand, summoning a shimmering map of the mansion, its secret corridors and hidden chambers glowing faintly in the dim light. "We must seek the Heartstone, an ancient relic buried deep beneath the mansion. It holds the power to sever the curse's ties. But beware, the path is perilous, guarded by the wraith's minions and the mansion's own twisted defenses." Without hesitation, Serafina and Thorn prepared for the descent into the depths. Gabriel and Lyra appeared at the doorway, their faces set with resolve. "We come with you," Lyra declared, her eyes blazing. "This mansion is our home, and we will fight to save it." The small group formed a reluctant fellowship, stepping through the secret door that led to the shadowed underbelly of the estate. The air grew colder, the walls narrowing into claustrophobic tunnels lined with ancient runes that pulsed faintly with magic. Whispers echoed from the darkness, voices of the long lost, begging, warning, cursing. At every turn, shadows writhed like living creatures, their forms flickering and shifting. The wraith's minions, grotesque specters of twisted light and shadow, lunged at them with snarls and cries. Serafina fought alongside Thorn, their movements synchronized, a dance of light and fury. Gabriel wielded a blade etched with runes, cutting through the phantoms, while Lyra chanted spells of protection, her voice a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Deeper and deeper they ventured, until they reached a cavernous chamber where the Heartstone rested on a pedestal of black obsidian, glowing with pure white light. But the wraith awaited them, towering and furious, its form more solid and terrifying than before. "You think you can undo what was set in motion?" it roared. "Your hope is but a fleeting spark, I will snuff it out." A fierce battle erupted, magic clashing with shadow, strength against despair. Seraphina channeled the courage and love that had carried her thus far, raising the silver pendant high. It blazed with light, illuminating the chamber and burning away the darkness. With a final, desperate strike, Thorn lunged, claw-meeting shadow in a thunderous roar. The wraith screamed as its form dissipated into a swirl of black mist, vanishing into nothingness. Breathless and battered, the group gathered around the hearthstone. Seraphina reached out, her fingers brushing the luminous surface. A surge of warmth and hope flooded through her, spreading like wildfire. The petals of the enchanted rose shimmered and glowed anew, as if revived by the magic unleashed. The curse was weakening. Outside, the storm began to break, the first rays of sunlight piercing through the clouds. But even as hope bloomed, Seraphina knew their journey was far from over. Darker trials awaited and sacrifices yet to be made. For now, though, they had taken the first step toward reclaiming their lives and breaking the bonds forged in darkness. The mansion, though still standing tall and proud, felt different now. The light that had once been smothered beneath layers of darkness was beginning to seep through the cracks, subtle, fragile, but undeniable. Seraphina could feel it in the very air she breathed, a tentative hope that pushed back the shadows inch by inch. But the battle beneath the mansion's ancient halls had left scars. The wraith's minions, though vanquished for now, had whispered curses that echoed in Seraphina's mind. She often woke in the night to see fleeting shadows flit at the edge of her vision, hear soft voices calling her name in languages she didn't understand. Thorn had changed as well. The beast's savage growls were quieter, replaced by moments of unexpected gentleness, a softness when his eyes met hers, a carefulness in his movements around her. Yet beneath it all was a storm of rage and sorrow that he struggled to contain. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the sky with hues of crimson and violet, Seraphina found herself wandering the mansion's sprawling gardens. The once wild and tangled greenery now seemed to pulse with new life, small buds pushing through the earth like tiny miracles. As she walked, a voice called softly from the shadows. Seraphina. She turned to see Lyra stepping out from behind a rosebush, her face illuminated by the fading light. "There is something you must know," Lyra said, her voice urgent yet gentle. "The mansion's curse is not just magic, it's tied to blood and betrayal. The pact made by Thorn was with a force far older and darker than a simple wraith." Seraphina's heart quickened. "What do you mean?" Lyra glanced around nervously, then lowered her voice. "There was a second player in this game, a shadowy figure who orchestrated the downfall of the Ravenwood family from the beginning. Someone who thrives on pain and despair, feeding off the curse's power." Seraphina clenched her fists. "Who? How do we stop them?" Lyra hesitated, then handed her an ancient, weathered key. "This opens a secret chamber beneath the mansion. It holds answers and a chance to confront this dark force. But be warned, it is guarded by the mansion itself. Many who seek it are lost to its labyrinth." Determined, Seraphina returned to the great hall, where Thorn awaited her. She shared Lyra's revelation and showed him the key. Thorn's eyes darkened. So the curse is deeper than I imagined. We must face this hidden enemy or risk losing everything. Together, they gathered Gabriel and Lyra, forming a pact of trust and courage. Their next journey would take them beneath the very foundations of the mansion, into the heart of darkness itself. The night before their descent, Seraphina sat by the window in her chamber, gazing at the enchanted rose. Its petals, now glowing faintly with renewed magic, seemed to pulse in time with her heartbeat. A gentle knock at the door startled her. Thorn entered quietly, his towering form softened in the candlelight. "I want you to know," he said softly, "that whatever happens, you have changed me. Your courage and kindness, they are the light in this darkness." Seraphina smiled, her heart fluttering. "And you've given me hope, more than I ever thought possible." Their hands met, a bridge between beast and maiden, human and monster. Outside, the first stars began to twinkle, promising a dawn yet to come. The air grew colder as Seraphina, Thorn, Lyra, and Gabriel descended the narrow stone staircase that spiraled deep beneath the mansion. The walls here were carved with cryptic symbols, glowing faintly in the eerie darkness, casting dancing shadows that seemed almost alive. Each step echoed ominously, and with every breath, the weight of the mansion's secrets pressed heavier on their shoulders. The key clutched tightly in Seraphina's hand vibrated softly as if guiding her deeper into the labyrinth. Suddenly, the passage opened into a vast cavernous chamber, its ceiling lost in darkness. At its center, an altar stood draped in tattered cloth, upon which rested an ancient tome bound in cracked black leather. As Seraphina approached, whispers swirled around her, voices both sweet and sinister, promising power and destruction. Opening the tome, she read aloud passages that spoke of a shadow entity, a malevolent force known only as the Veil Walker. The Veil Walker had bound itself to the Ravenwood family's fate centuries ago, orchestrating their ruin and weaving the curse that transformed Thorn. "This is our true enemy," Seraphina whispered. "Not just the curse, but the one who wove it." Suddenly, the chamber trembled. From the darkness emerged a figure cloaked in shifting shadows, eyes glowing with cold malice, the Veil Walker itself. "I have waited long for you," it hissed. "You seek to undo what I have crafted. But my grasp extends beyond these walls, into your very soul." Thorn growled fiercely, stepping protectively in front of Seraphina. "You will not harm her." A fierce battle erupted, shadows twisting and striking, magic flaring in bursts of light. Lyra chanted powerful incantations, while Gabriel swung his rune-etched blade with precision. But the Veil Walker was cunning, exploiting fears and doubts, whispering venomous lies that threatened to break their spirits. In the heat of battle, Seraphina felt the pendant grow unbearably hot. She raised it high, unleashing a brilliant wave of pure light that pierced the darkness. The Veil Walker screamed, retreating with a final vow. "This is not over, child of hope. I will return." As silence fell, the chamber brightened. The curse's hold visibly weakened, the enchanted rose's petals glowed fiercely, as if nourished by their victory. Breathless but victorious, the group made their way back to the surface, hearts pounding with both relief and foreboding. Outside, the first rays of dawn broke through heavy clouds, casting the mansion in a hopeful light. But Serafina knew the Veil Walker's promise was true. Darker trials awaited. Yet together, bound by trust and courage, they would face whatever came. The days following their victory over the Veil Walker were filled with an uneasy calm. The mansion, once cloaked in endless shadows, seemed to breathe with tentative life. The enchanted rose, now glowing steadily under its glass dome, was a beacon of hope but also a reminder of the ticking clock. Serafina's bond with Thorn had deepened, forged in fire and hardship. Yet beneath the fragile peace lurked a storm. The Veil Walker's promise of return echoed like a threat in their minds. One afternoon, as sunlight filtered weakly through the stained glass windows, a strange visitor arrived at the mansion's gates. A man cloaked in midnight robes, his face obscured beneath a hood. Gabriel and Lyra exchanged wary glances as they escorted the stranger inside. "I am Malric," the man announced, voice smooth but edged with steel. "A seeker of truths and breaker of curses. I come with knowledge. And a warning." Serafina regarded him cautiously. "What knowledge do you bring? And why should we trust you?" Malric smiled thinly. "Because the Veil Walker's shadow is longer and darker than you realize. The curse is entwined with ancient pacts and forgotten betrayals, secrets buried in the bloodline of the Ravenwoods themselves." He unfurled a weathered scroll depicting cryptic symbols and a map of forgotten realms. "Your family's fall was no accident. The Veil Walker was but a pawn in a grander game. There exists a Shadow Council, entities older than time, who feed on suffering and chaos. They seek to claim your souls as part of a ritual that will unleash eternal darkness." Whispers of doubt and fear crept into Serafina's heart. Was this new threat real? Could they face it? That night, in the Great Hall, tensions flared. Thorn's beastly instincts bristled at Malric's presence. "You bring danger here," Thorn growled. "How can we trust a stranger?" Serafina stepped forward, voice firm. "We cannot afford enemies within. But we cannot face this alone either." Malric nodded solemnly. "I offer my aid. Together, we can unravel the curse's final threads." Yet even as alliances formed, the Veil Walker struck back. Shadows seeped through the mansion's cracks, whispering lies, and sowing mistrust. A trusted servant vanished mysteriously. Doors slammed in empty corridors. The mansion seemed to turn against its inhabitants. Serafina faced a cruel dilemma: who was friend, who was foe? Could she hold the fragile bonds together? In a desperate bid to protect those she loved, she ventured into the mansion's heart once more, guided by Malric and guarded by Thorn. There, in the Chamber of Echoes, they confronted twisted reflections of themselves, fears made flesh, memories distorted by the curse. The battle was fierce, pushing Serafina to the brink. Yet through unwavering courage and trust, they shattered the illusions and uncovered a hidden chamber, the sanctum of the Shadow Council's power. Within lay the final key to breaking the curse, but at a terrible cost. Seraphina's resolve hardened. To save her family and the mansion, she would face the ultimate sacrifice. As the enchanted rose's last petals trembled, the race against darkness surged toward its climax. The heavy air of the sanctum pressed down on Seraphina like a storm about to break. Shadows writhed along the walls, alive with whispers of forgotten pain and ancient grudges. The chamber's very essence pulsed with the dark magic, the final bastion of the Shadow Council's power. Before them lay the artifact they had sought, the obsidian heart of black crystal thrumming with malevolent energy, bound tightly to the fate of Ravenwood and Thorn's curse. To shatter the obsidian heart meant unraveling the curse, but the price was steep, a sacrifice beyond anything Seraphina had imagined. Malric's voice was grave. The ritual demands a soul willingly given, pure of heart, to sever the bonds of darkness. No magic can force this, only choice and sacrifice. Thorn stepped forward, his beastly form casting a long shadow. I have lived cursed too long. If my sacrifice frees this place and my family, then I will bear it gladly. Seraphina's heart clenched, torn between hope and despair. No. You have fought enough. The sacrifice must be mine. A fierce argument sparked, voices rising amid the oppressive gloom. Yet in the end, it was Seraphina's unyielding will that prevailed. That night, beneath the cold light of a waning moon, the final ritual began. Elias and Lyra chanted ancient incantations, their voices weaving a tapestry of light and power. Gabriel stood guard, eyes scanning the darkness beyond the chamber's threshold. Seraphina knelt before the obsidian heart, the silver pendant glowing warmly against her chest. She whispered a vow, a promise of love, hope, and redemption. As she placed her hand upon the dark crystal, a searing pain surged through her veins, visions flooding her mind, memories of the Ravenwood ancestors, the rise and fall of power, the betrayal that birthed the curse. The shadows writhed, clawing at her soul, but she held firm, willing the darkness to break. Thorn stood beside her, his growls turning to soft murmurs of encouragement. In a blinding flash, the obsidian heart shattered, shards of black glass raining like stars. The mansion trembled, and the shadows screamed in agony before dissolving into nothingness. Silence fell. When the light returned, Seraphina was breathless but alive. Thorn's form shifted for receding, claws transforming to fingers, until before her stood a man once more, tall, noble, and free. Tears streamed down Seraphina's face as she embraced him. "The curse is broken," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "Because of your courage, your sacrifice." Outside, the first light of dawn bathed the mansion in gold. The gardens bloomed anew, and the enchanted rose blossomed fully, a symbol of hope restored. But even in victory, Seraphina knew the road ahead would be long. The mansion's scars ran deep, and the Shadow Council's remnants still lurked beyond sight. Yet for now, the chains had fallen. And a new chapter began, one forged by love, courage and the unbreakable bonds of family. The curse was broken, the mansion bathed in the golden light of a new dawn. Yet the aftermath of darkness left its marks, scars woven deep within the stones and hearts of those who lived there. Serafina and Thorn, now returned to his true human form, faced the monumental task of rebuilding not just the estate, but the fractured legacy of the Ravenwood family. The once desolate gardens now burst with vibrant life. Flowers bloomed where shadows had ruled, streams sparkled like liquid crystal, and the air was thick with the sweet scent of renewal. Yet within the mansion's walls, echoes of the past lingered, whispering secrets that refused to fade. Serafina stood on the balcony overlooking the courtyard, the morning sun warming her face. Thorn approached, his hand gently finding hers. "We have won the battle," he said quietly, "but the war to restore what was lost is just beginning." Their days were filled with hard work restoring the crumbling halls, rekindling the household, and reaching out to estranged allies. Elias and Lyra became invaluable guides, their knowledge and magic essential in weaving new life into the mansion. But amid the renewal, strange occurrences unsettled the peace. Unseen eyes watched from the shadows, faint voices echoed through empty corridors, and the air crackled with restless energy. One evening, as a soft rain pattered against stained glass, a mysterious visitor arrived, a woman cloaked in silver, her eyes reflecting the storm outside. "I am Silera," she introduced herself, her voice both melodic and commanding. "I come with news from the beyond." The Shadow Council's remnants gather in the realm between worlds. Their hunger for power is not sated. Serafina's heart tightened. The battle was far from over. Together with Silera, the group delved into ancient prophecies, discovering a hidden link between the Ravenwood bloodline and a forgotten artifact, the Starfall Amulet, said to hold the power to seal the Shadow Council forever. But the amulet was lost in a realm only accessible through dreams and memory, a perilous place where reality and illusion intertwined. Determined, Serafina volunteered to journey into this realm, guided by Silera's magic. Thorn, Elias, Gabriel, and Lyra vowed to protect the mansion and await her return. As Serafina prepared for her dream walk, the mansion seemed to hold its breath. The echoes of the past faded into silence, replaced by a stirring hope. The veil between worlds thinned, and Serafina stepped into the unknown, a realm of stars, memories, and endless possibility. Her journey was just beginning. The veil between the waking world and the realm of dreams shimmered like a delicate curtain as Serafina stepped through. The landscape before her was unlike any she had ever seen, a vast expanse where stars floated like lanterns in a midnight sky, and memories twisted into surreal forms, weaving a tapestry of light and shadow. Guided by Silera's gentle magic, Serafina ventured deeper into this dreamscape, searching for the Starfall Amulet, a relic said to possess the power to banish the Shadow Council forever. But the realm was fraught with illusions, testing her mind and spirit. Faces from her past appeared, whispering doubts and fears. Shadows danced, attempting to lure her into eternal sleep or endless wandering. Drawing strength from her journey, from the love she bore Thorn, and the hope for her family and the mansion, Serafina pressed onward. Finally, atop a gleaming peak of crystalline light, she found it, the Starfall Amulet, pulsating with radiant energy, a beacon against the darkness. As she reached out to grasp it, the shadows coalesced into the forms of the Shadow Council's leaders, twisted beings of ancient malice, determined to seize the amulet and shatter the fragile piece. A fierce battle erupted, light against shadow, hope against despair. Seraphina summoned every ounce of courage and love, the amulet's power radiating through her. With a final cry, she unleashed the amulet's light, a wave that cascaded across the dream realm, dissolving shadows and breaking ancient bindings. The Shadow Council's power shattered, their forms dissipating like mist under the morning sun. Awakening in her chamber, Seraphina found the mansion bathed in brilliant light. The gardens bloomed with unparalleled beauty, the air alive with the songs of birds and the laughter of those renewed. Thorn stood by her side, fully restored, no longer beast, but a man of honor and love. Together, they looked toward the future, a Ravenwood reborn, a legacy reclaimed. In the days that followed, Seraphina and Thorn dedicated themselves to healing the wounds left by darkness. They opened the mansion to all who sought refuge and wisdom, their story a beacon of hope and resilience. The enchanted rose remained forever vibrant, a symbol of the trials overcome and the love that conquered all. And as the sun set on their journey, a new dawn rose over the lands, promising peace, renewal, and endless possibilities. The curse was broken, the shadows vanquished, and the Ravenwood legacy lived on, stronger, brighter, and eternal. Title: The Curse of Ravenwood, a tale of love, darkness, and redemption. Description: Dive into the enchanting world of The Curse of Ravenwood, a gripping fantasy tale of courage, sacrifice, and hope. Follow Seraphina Ravenwood, the youngest daughter of a fallen noble family, as she bravely offers herself to break a deadly curse that has transformed her father's estate and its master, Thorn, into a realm of shadows and despair. Journey with Seraphina as she confronts ancient evils, uncovers dark secrets, and faces impossible trials, from entering the beast's tortured mind to battling the sinister Veil Walker and the Shadow Council that threatens to consume them all. With the help of loyal allies and the power of a magical enchanted rose, Seraphina fights not just for her family's legacy but for the chance at a new dawn. Will love and sacrifice be enough to shatter the chains of darkness? Experience an epic story of transformation, trust, and the enduring light that can emerge even in the darkest of places. Perfect for fans of fantasy, adventure, and heartfelt drama. Subscribe and join the journey of The Curse of Ravenwood, where every shadow has a story, and every heart holds a promise.